Testing 1, 2, check.
The clapping makes it, right? No, because Jack's school wasn't on vacation. Yeah, no, Jordan Donovan has the next 2 weeks off. So they have next week, they have the 13th to the 24th off. Hello, and welcome to the Board of Education meeting of April 8th, 2026. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry. Okay. Before we begin, let's note that Trustee Will Treves and Trustee Dara Gordon are unable to join this evening due to work travel. Tonight is expected to be a straightforward business meeting. I want to highlight one important item, our budget discussion tonight. The line-by-line review is complete, and this is our final meeting before the April 21st session, when the board will be asked to adopt the budget that goes to voters in May. If you have final questions or concerns, tonight is a good time to raise them. As always, you could reach out to Mr. Ricky and his team or to members of the Finance Committee for further details about the budget. Pelham Public Schools are defined by our community's shared commitment to giving every student a strong, well-rounded education with access to challenging academics and a wide range of opportunities. Across our schools, the district continues to strengthen what is taught in the classroom, provide more targeted help for students who need it, and better prepare students for what comes next. At the high school, students benefit from a broad and rigorous program with strong participation and performance in advanced placement and other college-level courses, as well as opportunities for research, the arts, athletics, and civic engagement. Student outcomes remain strong across the board, reinforcing Pelham Public Schools as a high-performing district, among the best in the state and among the best in the country. Just as important, we achieve this while being responsible stewards of taxpayer resources. In the 2026-2027 budget proposal, we are again managing the budget to the tax cap in the face of rapidly rising costs. That has required discipline and, importantly, real restraint. Even though the overall number is large, the overall budget number is large, this is a lean budget. The district has a clear strategic plan that guides its work. As we look ahead, we need to be clear that the district can't continue to rely on cutting or holding back investment and expect to maintain or grow the level of excellence that our community expects. Our responsibility is to not just maintain excellence, but to ensure it continues to grow. This budget reflects discipline today, while making clear that sustaining excellence requires planning and investment in what comes next. I'll close by congratulating our Winter Scholar athlete teams recognized by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. These students exemplify excellence in both the classroom and in competition, which is no small achievement. Congratulations to boys ice hockey, boys indoor track and field, boys swimming and diving, girls basketball, girls bowling, and girls indoor track and field. It's an amazing achievement. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Champ.
Okay.
Actually, let me,
Do some minutes first.
yes. Do I have a motion to take 3.1 through 3.3 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, these are the approval of minutes from February 25th, March 4th, and March 18th meetings. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? No? All in favor? Aye. None opposed, so those minutes are all approved. Now I'll hand it over
Okay.
to Dr. Chen.
Thank you very much. I know it's been a couple weeks since we've been here, but it feels like just yesterday in
Yeah.
school terms because of having spring break. So I do hope everyone got a nice, well-rested spring break. And we're hoping spring is really around the corner.
Yes, not
Today was
today.
below freezing, but our trees are blooming, and it's always a beautiful time of year to be in Pelham. So we're excited to be back, and this is the final stretch to the end of the year. So I'll just start with one exciting thing, and then I'm going to go into some more not as exciting things. But part of the spring for us always is the time of year where we look forward to our May board meeting where we recommend candidates to the Board of Education for tenure. So the list of tenure candidates for this year has been posted on our website, as we do every year around this time. So if anyone's looking for that, it's on the district page under Human Resources. Down at the bottom, there's a collapsible accordion. So we have a great list of teachers, teaching assistants, and administrators this year. Shanna Chabaro, Cynthia Conrad, Jill DeJesus, Rafi Fraungen, Samantha Mastriani Battaglia, Olga Medina, Danielle Powers, Jolene Rabuano, Sabrina Scasio, Angela Snyder, Leela Zahed, Maril DeJant. And I should say, I have the opportunity each year, part of my job is observing teachers as well, and we all kind of take a critical strategic year in their life. So I have the opportunity of seeing them in the culminating year, in their tenure year. So it's been wonderful to be in the classrooms of each of these people and just see how talented they are, their commitment to our students, their skill in the classroom, and then to talk with the administrators over the years to hear how they've grown and the contributions that they have to the school. Additionally, we've got 3 administrators that we're going to be, I will be recommending to the board for tenure. Dr. Titone, I think we've talked about that. We actually technically already awarded it to her, but we're looking forward to celebrating that with her in May when she's back. And also be recommending to the board Mr. Sean Llewellyn, our high school principal, as well as Dr. Maria Thompson, middle school assistant principal for tenure. So those lists are there on the website if anyone wants to see that. I will say we work every day to encourage folks. We want to hear your feedback every day, not just at this final juncture in the milestone in the career process. So just a reminder, if folks have feedback on our staff at any point in time, probationary or tenured, we'd love to hear from you. So please do feel free to reach out, and we look forward to celebrating them in May. Stepping back a little, just to a couple things that have happened over these first couple of days, over the spring break and the first day back. I know that parents at the middle school, high school got a notification from the administrators about thankfully, a very minor traffic accident that happened before school. A student on the way to school, got kind of nicked by a car. A student who was riding a bike got nicked by a car on their way here. Yesterday?
Yes.
Yesterday morning. And that was well before our crossing guards are even on duty at that point. But thankfully, the student was fine, minor abrasion. And we're super thankful for that. But just reminders, especially now with the spring weather, more students may be walking and biking. Please continue to be cognizant of pedestrian safety around the school campus, everywhere in the town, obviously, but specifically around school campus, especially during arrival and dismissal times, because there are a lot of students going a lot of different ways. So we're continuing to talk through PTA Council about ways that we can continue to partner and strengthen those efforts, and I appreciate all the folks in both the towns and villages, as well as PTAs who have committed to proactive efforts to keep our students safe. So just wanted to put that reminder out there. Also, recently, I know folks saw our notice over the break that unfortunately we did discover some anti-Semitic graffiti on a playground at Hutchinson. So obviously very saddened to hear that and to find that. Appreciated the parent who discovered that and reported it to the police right away, which is exactly the right thing to do. They responded right away, documented it, removed it. To really minimize the exposure and harm to folks from seeing that. So I just wanted folks to know this is something that we are continually keeping in mind and continually teaching into. Students don't only get those lessons when things like this happen or once in our system. At each level, at 5th grade, 8th grade, and 10th grade, there are intentional curricular elements that are built into all of our instruction with students so that it's something that is explicitly taught to at those junctures, and all of our buildings are working from day one with students to build a culture of kindness, care, respect for all people, understanding one another's stories, and celebrating those, getting to know one another, approaching our literature through windows and mirrors and sliding glass doors. There's just so many ways that we work to try to create a culture of belonging for everyone. So I do want folks to know that. because there's always a question of what do we do, how do we do it, we're not doing enough. This is ongoing, continual work for us, and we work to do it in an embedded way, because when it's embedded into the work that students do, then it connects to something meaningful, as opposed to doing freestanding, isolated instruction in these areas. So at the same time, we do respond when something happens. So in addition to the curricular-based work that's ongoing, as our note said, Ms. Keene-Thompson had planned to do some follow-up with the students. So I was fortunate to be in the building with her on Tuesday, where she was holding town halls with each of the grade levels and tailoring a lesson to them about our language, about how each of us has a story, and there are things that are special and unique about us from our culture, our background, our families, and how the words that we use and the symbols that we use can be hurtful and harmful, but how we as a community need to come back together and name it and repair the harm that was caused to one another. And she did it just in a really beautiful, age-appropriate way, anchored around a storybook, in smaller groups, kind of kindergarten and first grade together, second and third. It was just, I thought it was just really well done. So I wanted really for the board to know that we do follow through both proactively as well as reactively, always keeping in mind the developmental level of students and that need to teach into issues and continue to do this ongoing work through the lens of strengthening the fabric of our community. So I was proud of her and thankful to be there for that. Tonight on the agenda, and I mentioned this last time, but I thought it was worth mentioning again, in our policy section, you'll see again for second reading, a series of policies. This is coming out of our policy audit, but I guess related to the issue we just had at Hutchinson. It's always important for us to make sure that any policies related to how we treat one another, and in this case, Title IX, equal opportunity for employment, sexual harassment, et cetera, that these are updated and current, so that we can continue to enforce through every lever, not just the educational, but also the policy lever of the kind of culture that we as a school district want. In particular, many of these deal with employment culture, so our professional culture as well as our student culture. So those are up for second reading tonight. I would ask the board if you're comfortable with them. We did, I think Sid gave a couple little quick updates last time. We haven't received any additional feedback that I'm aware of, so if you would be willing to waive the third and approve them, that'd be great. Because Dr. Fitzgerald and I have talked about, once these are passed, then putting a reminder update out to internally to our staff to just continue to reinforce that culture of expectation, excellence. If you see something, say something, and just really continuing to work to create a safe environment for staff. So that'll give us the ability to move forward with those. And finally, just a quick construction update. I know we haven't had a bond steering meeting yet. We are scheduled for our next one next week. Next week, I know we have, yes, good reminder. We have our planning meeting, our OACM meeting tomorrow afternoon, to be followed by bond steering next week. But we do have really two things I wanted to mention. Tomorrow night, we do have a parent info session specifically for parents at Colonial and Prospect Hill. Because while so much of our conversation and attention has been on Siwanoy because it's such a big project, we are also doing projects at the other two schools, and those actually are going to be starting this summer. So 7 o'clock, there's going to be a remote meeting. Thank you to Alex, sent out a reminder this evening on Parent Square. That should be probably less than an hour. We'll be there with our construction team, just giving a quick update on the work that's planned for summer of 2026, school year 26-27, and summer of 2027 at Colonial and Prospect Hill, so parents have an idea of what to expect. So the good news is this summer is going to be kind of a little bit smaller scale of work. In general, what we're looking at for both Prospect Hill and Colonial is doing any of the roofing work that was identified, so a very small amount at Colonial over the entrance pergola. Prospect Hill, obviously, it's more looking at the slate roof. And then doing some initial piping prep work, that's kind of the short version, for the HVAC systems. We're not going to be able to do the changeover to the new systems until summer of 2027. So that means we have to start installing the new system, but keep the old system running for another school year. So that's going to keep the work to this summer a little bit lower impact, probably We'll do some work over the summer, the things that are messy, dirty, loud, that will be summer. We are looking to do some work, though, second shift during the school year, next school year. So that'll be in evenings, maybe one, maybe two classrooms at a time. They'll go in, take ceilings down, do the piping above there's all kinds of infrastructure above these drop ceilings. Do the work that's above there, replace those ceilings. So that's kind of the prep work. And then year 2 will be the bigger push. The summer, it's bigger summer, because that will be much more the dirty work of completely replacing ceilings, painting, and converting those systems over. So, so that's a reminder for tonight, for tomorrow night, for anyone who wants to tune in. We're going to do our best to remember to record it so that we can then post it and send that out for folks who are not able to attend the session. And then finally, one piece of feedback that we got at the last Siwanoy community session that I know there's been some debate or follow-up feedback from. We just want to touch a little bit on the Siwanoy fence. The reason we do our info sessions is to keep everyone informed on where we are, but also to gain feedback. So that's the whole purpose of those, is to get feedback so that we can then be responsive, taking all feedback into consideration. So what the plans presented at the Siwanoy info session showed was a 10-foot fence around the perimeter of Siwanoy. That was based on discussion we'd had with our security consultants, best practices around security and trying to provide a safe environment for students when they're at school, and also, best protection for the property in the hours when the property is not open for public. We did get lots of feedback. We got feedback that night from several people, and so hearing that feedback and the additional feedback that's come in, I've directed the architects to change the plan down to an 8-foot fence. Important to note is on most of the current existing Siwanoy perimeter, the taller fencing that you already see, that's at 8 feet. So what we're doing is moving it down to the existing height for most of it. So it shouldn't be a change, other than new fence, it shouldn't be a change for the bulk of that property. Anywhere that it's the lower 4-foot fence, that's what's gonna change, but it'll be up to match that 8. So there will be a little bit of a change, but what that does is it provides better safety protection while students are in school. We will be able to program the gate locks the same way we do at the other schools. Remote access, so they'll be locked during school hours, but we can program them to be open after school hours until dusk when the properties close. Open on the weekends till dusk when the properties close. Summer, same thing. And one thing we've talked about, we haven't traditionally sat and programmed every single day off into the schedule, but things like spring break, February break, Jim and I have already talked, and we put a process in place in his office to make sure that, especially on the larger breaks, that we can program that in so they can still be that same community resource. I should add too, while some folks think it's fine to keep them open all night, we've gotten feedback they'd rather keep them open. On the other hand, we've had complaints from neighbors and from the police department about having to be called late at night when there's disruptive presence on the property. So, it's a balancing act.
Right.
That's what I would say. We absolutely want to respect and be a resource for the community and the neighbors, and we also have to provide safety and protection for the property as well as the students. So I think the 8-foot will be, I believe, a better balance to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think beyond that, we'll, like I said, OACM and then bond steering, and then we'll have a more thorough update at our next board meeting.
Okay.
That's it for me tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Champ.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll have Emerson give her update.
So first off, on the Friday before spring break, the school held its poetry cafe. Students went with their English classes to a decorated classroom, and this is all grades, so they were all together. And they listened to others share their own writing pieces, such as stories, poems, letters, or they could read a favorite poem or entry from a specific book. It's a really fun and meaningful event, and it gives students a chance to express themselves and connect with students in other grades. Next off, student government elections are taking place this month. This week, grade level positions are open for students to apply for, so students will be elected for student governments within each grade. And this is a great opportunity for students to get involved and help make a difference in the school community. Along with later in the month, elections for school-wide government will begin, which is the same positions, but it's for the entire school body. So that's open for 10th to 12th graders. The high school spring musical is also taking place next weekend. Our cast and crew have been working incredibly hard to bring Pippin to life, dedicating so much time and effort to every part of the production. Their commitment has really shown throughout the process, and it is sure to be a great performance. Please come out and support them. Finally, the third marking period ends Friday, April 17th. This is an important time for students as the school year continues to move quickly. It's especially important for students in grades 10 through 12 since they're also beginning to prepare for AP season. Thank you.
It's a busy time of year.
Yes, thanks, Emerson.
Thank you, Emerson.
Yeah.
Thanks, Emerson. Yeah, and as
And
always, if you need to take
you.
off, we totally understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we move to the budget discussion, I'd like to move up public comment. If you'd like to come up to the microphone. And please say your name and
Sure.
and address.
Hi, I'm Amy Mason. I am a parent of a third grader at Siwanoy. I'm representing about 2/3 of the parents tonight. We've emailed Dr. Champ already, and we appreciate your response, but we're here to really discuss condensing our three third grade classes into 2 for 4th grade next year. I do understand the budget constraints, despite our very high taxes that we pay. But I don't think that this should really be a budget issue. We have heard from the teachers that this class is different. They said that they didn't have a problem last year condensing that 3rd grade class into this current 4th grade class, but they're very concerned about this 3rd grade class. They said that there are a lot of disruptive students in the class, and there are students that are easily distracted by these disruptive students, and they worry that the larger class sizes will really impact them. So I'm here tonight to ask you to please look into that, speak to the teachers, really investigate this before you make the decision to collapse to 2 classes, as we think this could be really detrimental to our students. So, thank you.
I appreciate you coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we can move to the budget discussion. I'll kick us off, if that's okay. Okay. I'll kick us off by talking about, we had Finance Committee yesterday morning. Yesterday morning? Yes. And also, it's a long week, okay. So the budget has not changed significantly since our last discussion, but there are a few areas I want to highlight, and then Jim and Dr. Chan, maybe you can focus on them a bit. First, there is a change in expenditures of approximately $273,000. It is, the majority of this increase is due to an unanticipated special education cost. My recommendation is that this gets incorporated into the budget, that we don't cut anything out of the budget to accommodate for this, because we can't cut anymore. Secondly, I want to note that the use of fund balance, specifically for debt service, has decreased year over year, but also from the prior version of the budget. That's something that decrease, and Jim will go over that. And this is because the expected timing of the ban for the short-term borrowing for the bond projects will now likely happen in July or later instead of June. And because of that, the interest payment will not start until 2027, 2028, and so does not need to be included in this budget. And this is important just to talk about this in the context of fund balance in general. The district has been very intentional and strategic in using fund balance for one-time investments like the middle school HVAC, new playgrounds, the house purchase, as well as using fund balance to help manage the tax levy and close some small budget gaps. However, we're reaching an inflection point where we need to scale back the amount of fund balance that the budget uses from year to year. We need to preserve fund balance to be the drawdowns on fund balance to be, in order to be fiscally responsible, we need to have reserves in place. And then it is also important in maintaining the district's AAA bond rating or credit rating, particularly as we approach the larger borrowing that will happen in 2028. And the last thing I want to point out is Dr. Champ, and you can speak more into this, of course. We asked her to, if she could add things back to the budget, like if state aid comes in higher or something, what would she like to add back? And one of these items is some of the funding for Pelham Together, $20,000, which Pelham Together supports the district in some important ways that may not always be visible to us.
That's
so
right.
maybe you could go,
Yeah, sure.
go through some of that. And we also, and Dr. Champ, and I agree with her with on this one for sure, that if there's additional budget in the range of $28,000 to $38,000, we should add back the support for Alex in communications, because the district has made a lot of, Alex is here. The district has made a lot of progress, right, in improving communications and being able to maintain the level of responsiveness and transparency that the community expects. Would require additional support if we could find it in the budget. And then finally, at Finance Committee, we reviewed staffing trends over time, and I think we reviewed this last year as well. Looking back to 2015, the district reached a high of approximately 382 budgeted staff in the 2023-2024 school year. And this proposed budget includes 372 staff. And I'm rounding because it goes to the 10th decimal place.
Jackie, can you say the numbers again?
In 2023-2024, it was about 372, and that includes staff that is funded by grants as well. It's just like the total staff, 372. 382, sorry, in 2023-2024. And our proposed budget includes about 372 staff. And so while the district's come down from that kind of post-COVID peak, staffing remains above pre-COVID. Like if you go back, the highest in that time frame pre-COVID, 2015 to 2020, was 359 staff members. But this reflects the sustained increase in student need that the district continues to address post-COVID. As a reminder, this increase in staff is primarily classroom, student-facing roles. The district has only added one administrator over I think we said last year, 10 years, so it's been 11 years now, right? Because it's a year later, over the past 11 years. And enrollment has remained relatively stable, ranging between 2,800 and 2,900 students over the time period. And I think we saw from the demographic study that there will be some, at some
Little bit of
schools,
increase, yep.
some increases happening in the coming years. And so with that, I'd turn it over to Jim and Dr. Champ to give some additional context on those things and anything else before we open it up.
Yeah, maybe if I can just jump off where Jackie left, because this is, I think, the more straightforward, and Jim gets much more into the technical.
Nuts and
Yes.
bolts.
Yeah, so, I think these are great questions and great conversations. Thinking about the staffing trends, certainly, I think we saw peaks right after the pandemic because we were all rightly so concerned about the pandemics on academics as well as social emotional learning. So, plus at the same time, even pre-pandemic and post, building out, strategic plans to support the goals and the vision that we have as a community, a school community. So the growth that you see in those numbers really is a result predominantly of growth in program from our strategic plans, combined with supports that some that added on during the pandemic, some we've been able to pull back a little bit on and settle back into more of a typical pattern. But at the same time, to your point, we've seen a growth in other areas. Tracy's been really transparent with us about especially the growth, not just here, but statewide, nationally, in special education, 504s. So when we look at, what are those actual staff, areas that were increased. When we look across the list, there's some of it was straight programmatic, the addition of a FLES program at the elementary, which is one of the things that I think is special and unique about Pelham, and that provides a very enriched program for our elementary students. That added staffing. Then when you look at students with high needs programs and regulatory supports, you've got English language learners, so our population there has grown, as well as our special education programs and the number of students. So those teachers in those areas has correspondingly grown. And then you can see where we've invested over time as well in social emotional learning supports to be part of our MTSS process. Clinicians, as well as intervention teachers to support that MTSS model. So between, being up 2 intervention teachers from where we were, 10 years ago, social workers, addition of 2 psychologists, plus the ENL, plus the special education, you really quickly see that our investment has been heavily in that MTSS support area to make sure that students have a strong foundation upon which to build those academics. If you don't have the SEL in place, they're never going to get to to achieve at the high levels academically that we want for them. So the balance of 2 has been great, and that's where our investment has been these last several years. And I would say too, you see the investment in that, in students having more success throughout the years, needs being met, but that does come at a cost. I mean, that's for sure, but I think that's where we've tried to pursue those things that align with our values. Just real quick too, to go back to that, what you'd mentioned, the quick, short list of like, if we got a little bit more money. And Jim and I keep getting emails from our professional organizations with more extenders about the budget
Oh, yeah.
process. So I think it's mid-April is the earliest at this
Don't think
point.
they're back till next week.
Right. So we're not anticipating a lot because we were one of the few districts that did get more than 2/3 of the state. But the couple things that you mentioned, I think really are top of my list and everything has been bothering me about we had to cut out of this budget.
Yes.
So I don't want to, but in particular, a couple of things that really, as I think more about it, are concerning, and I want to find, and based on, assuming your direction is that of the will of the board, which I think it is, we're going to do what we can to try to find space for some of these things. We did reduce some consultants, and in the initial development of the budget, we were looking to reduce that Pelham Together contract a bit. We did have that conversation with them. But at the same time, looking more deeply into what is that reach that they provide so much for our students. I think, we know about the things like they have social work interns who do some of their work here with some of our students. They work with our secondary administrators to bring in really relevant outside speakers, and that's speakers for the students as well as parent sessions in alignment with that. So they do a lot for parent education, community awareness. They do the direct support and counseling for students. They also have been really expanding to our student leadership voice and civic engagement, working, helping students prepare with internships. Their youth coordinator has been really pivotal in helping students get more involved in advocacy and learning around mental health at the advocacy at the state level, even doing some advocacy at the national level, partnering with the schools on the development and growth of the seal of civic readiness. Just all these areas where they've got resources and energy and time to help work directly with our kids. So I think that is a really important piece, as you've shared, and that's something that I agree. Sometimes you make a first cut, and sometimes you got to go back, and maybe that first cut is a little too deep. Our challenge is going to be, as I look at my friend Jim, the number is still the number. So to get something in, we've got to just do some juggling, and we're going to do that as we go through, through these next couple of weeks to get ready for April 21st for the budget finalization. But I would say that definitely would be a top priority to me, is to find the funds to continue to fully fund that partnership. And I do agree that's about $20,000. And then for the support that we've been able to use contingency funds for these last couple of years to bring on additional support from BOCES, to have that same support 1 day a week is going to be just shy of $28,000. So it's, again, it's not small. In a $99 million budget, I know that sounds small, but when you're really cutting down this close to the margin, you do struggle for those dollars. The good thing about that is if we can find it, we do get 39% reimbursement rate from BOCES. So in the following year. So yes, we've got to front the money this year, but it could add to revenues in the following year. So we're going to continue to do some work there to see if we can find anything. But again, this is on top of what Jackie's already shared of that 270,000-ish change since we initially crafted the budget. So it's really additive to that. That's our challenge for the du jour.
Yes.
So be transparent about all that, but know that we're trying. We do everything we can to try there, to get there without Jim having a coronary.
Yes. Thank you, and thank you to the members of the Finance Committee for your time yesterday morning. I think it was a good use of our time to be able to kind of give an update on where the budget is, and especially after the board had the opportunity to go through the budget line by line. One of the things we looked at right off the bat is kind of from the budget book is that page 1 where we have the summary of the budget. And again, I gave a quick handout to the board members this morning or this evening of what that page 1 looks like. And then as we heard earlier, we're looking at the BAN, which is a bond anticipation note, or the borrowing for the capital project. As we're moving along, at this point in time, it doesn't look like we're going to go out for that borrowing in the June timeframe. And the reason it was in the budget initially was if we borrowed the money in June, we would have an interest payment due June of next year, which would be in next year's budget. If we're not going to do that in June, and this is going to happen June or July or sometime thereafter, we're not going to have that interest payment for that borrowing. We're still going to have to borrow the money. It's just a matter of not June, July, August timeframe, and how that construction moves forward and the cash is drawn. So what we did is we looked at that, and we just made the adjustment, a projected forecast of what that would look like, taking that borrowing out and the corresponding use of the debt service fund that was going to be used to service that portion of that interest payment. Because again, we talked about using in bond feasibility, when we had capital markets here, we talked about using the debt service fund strategically to help kind of keep that, to smooth things out as we move forward. So as you look at the budget year-to-year change is lower because obviously there's less expenses because that interest payment is not being made in next year. But the property tax levy amount remains the same. So you're kind of looking at, for the homeowner and the impact on the property taxes, it's no different. For the budget that we're talking about and that was put forward, that's not different other than the interest portion of the bond payment or the band payment. So that was one of the things we talked about at the Finance Committee. One of the things we also talked about was how using fund balances is a good thing, but you have to be measured in the use of that fund balance. And I think Pelham has done a very good job in using the fund balance and using it in really strong ways that support the district. It was mentioned they were used for the HVAC here. They've been used for playgrounds, the purchase of the houses. They haven't really been used for those recurring operating costs, which is how you can kind of find yourselves, get yourselves in a hole. But also we're looking at our forecast, and that's one of the things we looked at this year. And this year we're going to see a bit of a drawdown of our fund balance. So as we look towards that, that's why we're kind of saying, okay, you got a little bit of a yellow light blinking here. Let's make sure we're being smart in our decisions and uses of fund balance. Because having a fund balance is important. It shows the health of the district. When you go out to borrow money, the bond rating agencies like to see that you have a fund balance. And it's a balanced approach in what your fund balance is and how you use it and how much you use of it. And I won't say there's not a perfect number out there, but it's kind of, you want to make sure that you don't have consistent drawdowns of that fund balance year after year, because eventually you're going to empty that pot or empty that savings account, which is really what a fund balance is. So we want to think about that, and that's kind of one of those things that it's important the board is aware of, and we talked about that in the Finance Committee meeting. As we get through this budget year, it's also interesting every year, the school districts share information. And we share some of that information that we get with the board members, and the board presidents even have a secret, not secret, but that's a bad word, I'm sorry. But they work with each other, and they communicate. Yeah, no secret handshake, but they work with each other, and they communicate with each other, and board members talk to each other from other districts, because everybody's working, obviously, in their own environment, and it's good to hear what's happening in other districts and what other districts are seeing and what's happening. And one of the things that we get every week this time of the year, not last week because it was a vacation week, from the Westchester School Boards Association, is kind of where every district who chooses to share their information is with their preliminary budget. And what I had an opportunity to do, and we looked at in the business offices, we just wanted to take a look at what Pelham's usage of fund balance is compared to other districts that chose to participate in the survey. So it's not like we have everybody, it's not all inclusive. And we're, right now, as it was originally proposed, we're about 4.4, a little bit more than 4% of the total budget use fund balance. As we pull it back, it's a little bit more than 3% of the total budget, because the pullback's just about under $1 million. And you look at it, it can be as high as 4.4, as low as some districts, 0.36. So it really does vary from district to district. It varies on what every district is doing, because, again, every district has a story too. Somebody may be going through construction, somebody may have a one-time, they may be purchasing something or putting HVAC on their building. So you don't know exactly what every district is doing. We don't get all of that information. But it gives us an opportunity to just kind of see where everyone else stands, and we've shared that information with the board as well.
I would say one of the, and Jim and Jackie maybe could speak more to this than me, but one of the things that we have that a lot of districts don't have is the debt service reserve, which is calculated within this as well.
It's a fund balance.
It's a fund balance,
Yes.
right? So that's, when we've, again, as Jim has said, we've used that very strategically, and it's great that we have it. And it's definitely a great tool and lever for us, but that also, I think, could speak to partially why our use within the budget.
We're a
is little
higher
bit- yeah,
percentage.
Yeah, it's a higher percentage,
Yes.
because we've got that tool and others don't.
And we've been fortunate to do that post-COVID. Well, during COVID, school districts generated fund balances, and it wasn't exclusive to Pelham.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, districts drew down their fund balances. So again, and I'm sure the members, talking to other members of other districts, they're kind of hearing the same things from district to district. What I also include is I shared with the board some information on our historical use of our reserves and fund balances. It's something we've shared before, but you can kind of see how it's ebbed and flowed over the years, and kind of how we've identified the use of it, how we've tried to use it for those one-time expenses. As we look at the budget, there were some changes, and there's always adds and takes. From the person in the finance seat, it always feels like there's more adds than takes. And certainly here, we found ourselves, again, first cut as the schools have looked, the secondary campuses have looked at their scheduling. It looks like there's some adjustments that have been made, some positive, some negative, but it looks like it's a little bit more on the positive side. We've got costs related to a student need that we were quite frankly unaware of prior to, that didn't exist prior to the budget development, that has existed post-budget development. And that's something that district is required to provide for the free and appropriate education. So that expense is noted as well, and that kind of is the makeup of the ins and the outs of kind of where we look as far as that $273,000 goes. So how are we going to fix it, Jim? That's the other question. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can cut, you can add revenue, you could use fund balance. We talked about fund balance. I'm not sure that's an avenue you want to explore right now. We look at our revenues. We're going to continue to look at our revenues. As Dr. Champ mentioned, we look at state aid. We were very fortunate that we were fully funded with foundation aid this year, and a lot of districts are at what's called hold harmless, so they're kind of already receiving more than the formulary would allow them to have, and their increase was 1% in the governor's budget. And what we're hearing from our internal groups now is that it's probably going to end up being 2% for those districts. So our expectation here is that that's going to take up a lot of money at the state level. And we don't have high expectations that it's going to leave a lot of capacity for other dollars to fall back to a district like Pelham that was fully funded in the first place. Historically,
In quotes.
fully funded, yeah. Historically, we've always had a little bit. It could be in the 10, 15, 20, $50,000 range. But at this time, we're not hearing anything that would lead us to believe that it's going to be at a level that would address the additional expenses that we're seeing here. So we may get a little bit in state aid. We're going to look at our other miscellaneous revenues. What are those? Those are sales tax revenues. Those are our tuition, our border properties. That could be interest income that we receive, those types of categories. So we're gonna look at that and see if how accurate they are. We thought we did a pretty good job because with tight budget, we looked at it a couple of times in our first shot with this budget. But things change as well. I think the Fed held on a reduction that we thought they might have. I think before we were talking about there potentially being a decrease at their last meeting. So we'll look at that though, and we'll see where it is. And you can see in the treasurer's report this evening, we put in there what our interest income is, which was as high, I think, at 5%. We're in the 3s now. So it's been dropping, but it's certainly nowhere near the levels it was at 5 years ago or even 3 years ago in the less than 50 basis point range. So it's still a very positive impact to Pelham. So as we go through the budget, I mean, again, these are the things we're going to do. We looked at transportation. We're not, now that all the transportation requests are in, we're not seeing any major changes there. We were hoping, but we don't see anything that's happened there. And then as the buildings continue to finalize their staffing based on their course and class requests, again, there's going to be ins and outs there. There may be an opportunity for there to be some funds available. And then again, it could fall the other way based on student choice and enrollment and student need. So we're going to work through all of this. We're going to work to come up with a plan. We're going to share it certainly with the finance committee so that the board has a plan and an opportunity to pass that budget on April 21st to put before the community.
Thanks, Jim. So, does anyone have any, I mean, I know we just went through, I guess, a couple of things. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the budget as we head into the home stretch, I guess, of budget?
If there are any guardrails and there's no, please don't do this.
Look, for the last 4 years that I sat on this chair, or somewhere here on the board, we've been very cautious with our budget. There's been years that we could afford to do many things and keep programming, or when we were just coming out of COVID, enhance our programming because we knew we needed it for our students. Unfortunately, this year, we're looking at a very different year where we have to keep very tight reins. It's not just the economy, but it's also everything else that's going on around where we feel like our students are very successful. We want to continue for them to be successful, but that also means we have to be very tight with the spend that we're going to have in the upcoming year. Again, the economy is not helping us. There's a lot of fluctuation. There's also a big increase in our special needs, asks that are being done by the community, and we would love to provide for that, and we want to provide for that. So that means if we're using the same amount of money as we budgeted, we have to cut somewhere else. And it breaks my heart that we will have to cut somewhere like Pelham Together programming, because they do provide so much for the community. So I would just ask if there's any way that we could find this money somewhere. And I know it's tight because, the electric bills and the heating bills are only going to go up, especially when winter doesn't seem to want to leave us this year.
Tell me about it.
So I totally understand, but it's just, as a board, I feel like this is a tight year. This is a very tight year. We've seen, governments, local governments around us increase their taxes.
And we're trying to remain within our tax cap, so it is just very tight. We all, live here, so it's very hard. We understand what our, the parents and the community is going through. So, some of the things are gonna have to be tight this year, and I hope that everybody understands why it has to be that way.
Yeah, and I guess I'll kind of just repeat something that I said earlier. I feel like we're at the point now where we're managing the budget to the tax cap, which I understand the tax cap is important. It has made school districts manage their budgets in, I guess, a more responsible way, for sure. But it does get to the point where it's difficult, where you can't maintain what the excellence that the school district has, if that's the only, we're managing solely to this number. So that's definitely I want to be clear, this budget needs to be tax cap compliant. That is what we set out at the beginning of budget season. But as Natalie said, we've seen many districts go through the cap several times, are planning to do so again this year. I think the districts are sharing the potential to do that with you.
Some are, and some are still holding it very
Yeah.
close. But yes,
Yeah.
we're aware of some districts that already are.
Yeah, I just want the community to understand that next year, the discussion will be about what is it that we want, right? What is it that we want, and how are we going to, we, meaning the entire community, for the education of the students. And if there are areas to invest in, we have to consider that, I think, over the tax cap,
I think we've also been very transparent about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
we've not been hiding it. We've been, even last year, talking about the fact that we can't continue, we likely cannot continue staying within the, not surpassing the tax cap. And yet this year, we still gave you the charge of keeping to the tax cap. And this is a really, really tight budget. So when Jim, you're talking about the 273, and then we're discussing Pelham Together and some other things. I know you said that you would, the administration would be looking at revenue, re-looking at it, because you've looked at it a number of times. I guess my question is, and I don't expect you to have an answer tonight, because if you did, then maybe we wouldn't be looking at this, but are there, and I hate to say it, but other areas where we might cut that we didn't think it would be possible, or we didn't want to consider, but are going to consider this year, but let the community know this is what happens when we are staying tax cap compliant? I mean, I don't even want to say those words, because I know how tight this is.
Yeah, and I think the process that we went through to get here was a lot of that kind of like literally Post-it notes on sheets of what are all the things that we could consider. Which of these are their needs,
Yeah.
because regulatory requirement, legal, absolutely, those things
They can't
obviously off the
change.
table. We can't touch it. We have to budget for those. And then of the wants side of things, then that's where it got much harder, because a lot of those are the things that make Pelham Pelham.
Yeah.
So then how do you prioritize? And that's where it was, okay, which are closest to the classroom, versus which are farthest away from the classroom. So
Yeah.
that's where we led to things like, not filling a maintenance mechanic position and reducing consultant services, some of which are facilities related. So again, to your earlier question, eventually those things have to come back. We
Yes.
can get by without those for a year, maybe, hopefully.
We
We're
will.
planning on it.
We will.
But those short-term, yes, long-term, no.
Right.
So, but how do we stay as far away from the classroom? And then when we went through those things and we still weren't there, we had to get a little closer. It's just literally the trimming is the best.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think that's it. We've got from now until the 21st to go back, see if anything has changed on the revenue side, relook at some things. You know how sometimes you put out, you make and like we do with everything, you make something for folks to react to. So this budget has been something for us to present to you and, community that's listening to react to
Yeah.
and say, okay, did we get it right? Or do we need to do a little, maybe we made, Pelham example is probably Pelham Together is probably the best example. We made a cut here that,
Yeah.
you know,
May not be in the best
may
interest
not be in the
of
best
the
interest
students.
ultimately.
Yeah.
We need to rethink that
Right,
and see, was there something else that did make the cut
right.
that maybe isn't as directive an impact as what this is?
Yeah, and, I know it was mentioned tonight, the SEL, and when you were talking about, I think we were talking about the
Staffing increases?
staffing and the SEL needs of students, my concern would be, and I know where we stand with the strategic plan and everything, and that's built in, and this is close to the students. I can imagine some questions from the community about the investments we put there, because they don't realize that schools are not just about reading, writing, and math. Schools are expected to fulfill needs that are not being fulfilled elsewhere. And if a child doesn't have these needs met, they're not going to learn.
Right.
Right? So I think there's so many factors here, but getting that extra support from BOCES to help Alex get the word out about these things is really important. So anyway, just some thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just add that, when I was looking at this budget and listening to the presentations and hearing, how the decision process was made, and what you said tonight really resonated with me, because when I look at this budget, and I met with Jim and Jackie to ask more specific questions and get down into some details that we didn't cover here, that I have all these questions all the time. So I'm filled with questions, especially when it comes to budgets. But, it really does, you see our strategic plan represented in these numbers, right? Like we spend a lot of money, we put a lot of resources towards things that impact our students closely, to instruction, stipends for different programs, teachers, clubs, all of the things that enrich our students' lives and experience here and make Pelham special or stand out or make Pelham feel like Pelham. And that we are at a point this year where, I know we've said this a million times, but I think we can say it a million more because it really needs to hit home. This is a really tight budget. I think that the district has been very responsible, and us as board members have asked the questions that we've needed to ask to steward, to be those financial stewards of the district, to make sure that every single dollar is having the most impact it can have for our students. And their hard decisions are going to have to be made. And I think none of us like talking about having to cut things from the budget. We want to be able to provide as much as we can. But we are, and we did say at the beginning of this process, stay within tax cap compliant was important. And so we did that this year, but that does mean hard choices. We're not going to get everything we want to see. We may not be happy with the things that are not included. I think we can feel comfortable that the things that are included are important, and maintaining our existing programs while maybe some of it's furthering, expanding a little bit, or, but we've made these investments over the last decade, since COVID. And I think what we have here, while not perfect or while not what everybody I think wants to see, because we do have to stay within the tax cap, I think it's not going to, in the long term, if we maybe next year have to really decide if we're what that conversation's gonna be. I don't see it having a long-term negative effect on our students, as long as, next year we're not looking to cut even further. But we are going to need to ask our community to be really understanding about what it means. Like, what does it mean to stay within the tax cap this year? And so hopefully our community will attend your presentations that you're going to be going on, that the budget circuit that's going to start, and ask the questions that they need to ask to get comfortable with what we're asking of them, so that when we approve this next week, right now it's the superintendent's budget, and I'm going to say this, Jim, because I know that it's important to say it, but right now it's the superintendent's budget. When we vote on it next week, it'll become the board's budget that you're going to go present to the community. When the community votes on it, it's going to be the community's budget, and so we want the community to understand as best they can everything that we have all spent so much time talking about and thinking about.
Yes, well said.
I've been heard. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think just one point to add on to Catherine's is, I hope the community realizes how much attention is being paid. Obviously, the district is responsible for students' education, and at the same time, paying a significant amount of attention to the community, right? Like, not just what you were hired to do, which is educate the students, but also what does that mean for Pelham taxpayers? And we've asked you year after year to stay within the tax cap, and it's reaching a point where it's like, okay, community, we've been doing this. This is a year where we could have easily said, okay, we get it, and please try to stay as close to the tax cap as possible. But we're asking for another year to do it, because we know it's hard out there, and people are paying, as was mentioned, a lot of taxes. And so I just hope that message gets out there, and that's not necessarily for you to say, in your tour, on your tour. But certainly, I feel comfortable saying it, that it's not like the district is unaware of the impact on the community. So when people start paying attention to the budget, because, it's, yes, you all have been working on it, and we've been talking about it, but when it becomes the board's budget. The board's budget. Yes. Wait, I'm getting the
Superintendent, board, community.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. And you start your presentations. People will start now looking at the details, right? So I just want them to know that you have a lot of things you're trying to balance.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And the thing I think about too, and I know it probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways, you're all taxpayers. So you're the same level of scrutiny and direction and accountability that you're putting on us. You're doing it as fiduciaries of the district, but you're also going home and paying the same tax bills that you're asking others to pay. So I think that's also an important, and I even, I look around the room and I see Alex and I see Jackie and so many people that work in the district that also live in the district. So I think that just that built-in accountability of you're not asking others to do something that you're not doing yourself.
Right.
I know it may not feel that sympathetic at the end of the day, but the reality is that that's a built-in accountability measure for you as a board. And I've appreciated, as hard as this task has been this year, we always appreciate the clear direction, the willingness to dig in and understand and ask the questions, so that, we can be transparent and be honest about what's there and try to deliver something that is focused on our values and the core of what makes us such a great school district, and maintain those things.
Yeah.
And part of what makes us such a great school district is our community comes out and votes yes on our budget year after year, which we're thankful for.
Yes.
So I think taxes are always a topic of discussion, but the community supports the schools, and we hope to see that continue.
Your tour counts, it has a very big impact, because I've spoken with other districts where they have not passed their budget. And I asked, so does your superintendent go around and talk to groups? I'm like, oh, no. So I'm like, how do people know what's in the budget? They don't, and that's why they vote no.
Right.
Because they don't want their taxes to go up. So I know it's so much to ask of you, and so many hours, and then besides the bond, and all, it's appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
Because it's educating people who, who are very busy and they're not paying attention to the ins and outs, and then all of a sudden they see, wait, my taxes are gonna go up by this amount.
Yeah.
And you going to, PTAs, to the senior groups, to all the coffees and whatnot. They make a difference, but I know it's an investment of time and energy
Yep.
on a very
Yeah.
long day long days to begin with, so.
Yeah, thank you. We're trying something a little new this year. In addition to that,
Okay.
Alex and Steve Ravita and I today filmed the start of our first little video series. I'm trying to do like 2-minute videos. Really kind of to that
Oh,
person, like
That's
people
great.
who, they don't have the time and energy
Yeah, we're
to
gonna have
spend all
reels.
this
That's
time, but like,
amazing.
That's really good.
Yeah.
just real quick, watch it
2
on the
minutes is the
train.
most people.
Think it'd be on TikTok?
That's what I was joking
Wait,
about becoming an
did you say?
influencer. But yeah, no. I'm not
Keep the
even on
views
Insta,
down.
yeah, so.
That's incredible because one of the top reasons people don't vote is because they don't feel informed enough to
Yeah.
make a choice.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Really where you have to ask you, like, you being the community is, what do you need? How much information
Right.
do you
What do
feel
you
you
wanna know?
need to feel informed enough to come to the polls and make a choice about the budget this year, for our schools? And that's incredible because maybe that a couple 2-minute videos on the train is what's going to help some people
Right.
think of maybe a few questions they wouldn't have thought of before, or feel that they have enough information to vote.
This also emphasizes the need for a good communication partner.
Yes, it
And
does.
the fact that we need to support that with budget.
So I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a minute. I do this. I feel like it's been a couple years now that I've done this, but
It's a tradition.
yeah.
Sid.
When I think of the budget, I mean, it's a people budget. It's like
Yeah.
the vast majority is people costs, and the tax cap for school districts, is a math problem that you can't really solve in the long term. When you have benefits that are like a third of the people costs and they're growing in double digits every year, and you're trying to keep overall costs to 2%, you're talking about a situation where you're inevitably looking at having to limit program if you're going to maintain the tax cap compliance. So to me, it's a matter of like trying to triage and minimize that as much as we can, which I think we've done over the last few years. And then at some point, you sort of have to rip the Band-Aid off, or you decide you're going to change your program and not have it be what it's been for students over the last, number of years. And that's a choice too. I don't think that most people in the community would want to go down that path, but it's something that we'll have to have a conversation about,
Yeah.
I would think, next year, about what the community's value, what the community values most in terms of what the school district's going to offer our students. So that's my 30 seconds on it.
Okay. Okay.
And that's all I have to say about that.
So I think we're hearing from you. Get to work and share with the Finance Committee and give us a budget that really preserves as much program as possible and keeps a lot of the great things that are already in the budget. And that's something that you can get behind and put before the community.
Okay,
We can
Thank
do
you.
that.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks to Finance Committee too. It's
Yes.
always very helpful for us to work with you on getting to where we get. Okay, so just as a reminder to folks, our next meeting is actually a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. It's Tuesday, April 21st, and that's because of the budgetary timeline, state requirements for adopting the budget.
It's a Tuesday, yes.
It's a
Yeah.
Tuesday.
I know they keep throwing me off. I look at the calendar, I'm like,
Tuesday.
we should
No,
have a
it's
meeting on the
Tuesday.
22nd, but then I remember it's the
No,
21st.
you can have Wednesday off.
Because we're trading
come
it
on
for
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. And is that 4:30?
No, that's normal.
It's a normal time.
Normal time, 6:30,
Okay.
7:30.
6 or something.
You're thinking probably of the, when we adopted the budget results last year. We did a really short 4:30.
Yes,
in
I
the
am
afternoon.
thinking of that.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't think we have committee reports
Nope.
because it was spring,
Right,
spring break,
Yep,
and
just
we don't.
covered finance.
And we
Yeah,
just
discussion.
covered finance, which we had yesterday. And I think we're going to not do the assistant superintendent's reports because of spring break and, you know, but does anyone have any questions for the cabinet?
I was going to ask maybe when Jim comes back too, if there's anything on the agenda, kind of to that point, any
Yes.
any questions for any of the cabinet or myself on things on the agenda? And Jim, I didn't know, you always
Oh,
have
yes.
something in there, but actually doesn't look like there's much on the business agenda that is, needs clarification.
No, I'm sure you're dying to know what a Red Max 2300 is, which we're
Yes.
disposing of. Because I wanted to know, it's a hedge clipper. The really long,
Okay.
the really long
Yes.
ones. So
And-
it doesn't work anymore. Yeah, we're retiring it.
Okay, and the rental of risers and party tent, that's all for graduation.
That is for graduation.
Graduation.
Yes.
So, I would say that's just a point of information, that's something that we didn't used to pay for.
Right.
Before the pandemic, that was senior class parents contributed each year towards that. It was getting pretty excessive, yeah. And then during the pandemic, we had a lot of reserves. There were a lot of challenges going on for folks financially, so that is the point at which the district picked up the cost of those.
And it's made it so that the other schools can take advantage.
That's
We'll
been
use
the
the
great
tent
part.
and
Yep.
Part of the
risers.
problem was that, I think, if I remember correctly, senior parents were paying for it, but other schools were using it, or potentially using it.
Potentially, I think the bigger, harder pill to swallow was when they would pay for it and then it would get rained out and we'd
That
go
was it.
inside.
Yes.
Yeah, so they'd.
And the tent setup.
You know, $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 for a tent and then we didn't use
We
it.
didn't use it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we do our best to get full use of it now,
Yeah,
especially since
geez,
we're paying for it.
like weeks,
And yeah, it's actually turned out, I think, to be a wonderful asset to do it the way that we've been doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay, all right, so yeah, no further reports.
Okay. We already did communications and comments from the public. I have a motion to take 6.1 through 6.4 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
We just talked about these, but any comments or questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, so all those motions carry. I'll turn it over to Sid now for policy discussion.
Sure. So, the first policy on the agenda is, just getting there, the school attorney. This is the first reading, duties of the school attorney. We had some input from the public on this, and so we took a look at it. And I think the district already generally does this, but we thought it was appropriate to add something that sort of explicitly says that whenever the district's going to be making any material court filing, that they'll consult with counsel. And I think, everyone seemed comfortable with that and felt like it was a good thing to
good practice.
Yeah,
remind
so that's
the
exactly right.
administration
Good
of.
practice,
but,
something we
yeah,
generally
good
do, but
practice.
Yeah.
to capture it in
Yep.
policy is, just reinforces that.
Yep.
Yep.
So then we have second readings, as Dr. Champ mentioned, for Title IX policy, equal employment opportunity policy, sexual harassment policy, and extreme heat. The only comment that I had, let me find which one it is. So I think if you look at sorry. So policy 3421, which is Title IX, And then the other two all have similar provisions around sort of prohibition of retaliatory behavior. I think in 3421, we didn't make the conforming change. There's this sort of retaliation sentence that we changed everywhere else to a sentence that starts with however, which is the same concept, but I think we all agreed it was sort of a little clearer the way we rewrote it. So I would just make it a motion to amend policy 3421 to use that same language. And otherwise, I don't think we've gotten any comments from anyone. So I would suggest that we could maybe put all these on the agenda for a vote. But
That would be great. I was just going to ask for Valerie's purposes for minutes. Can you just, do you happen to have the page number where that change would be
Yep.
made?
it's
Just so
in
we approve it with the clerical change.
3421, page 11. It's the first paragraph under prohibition of retaliatory behavior is the heading. And that last sentence that starts with retaliation gets replaced with the sentence in the other two policies that starts with however.
Got it. Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the last policy that's on here is 7.6 is just rescinding the policy that we had already that deals with some heat issues, but we updated that with a new extreme heat policy that's consistent with the state law and then also brings in some of the stuff that we had done in our existing policy that we thought was useful and outside the bounds of what the governor required. So,
Yep, and that was predominantly those last two sentences.
yep.
Any comments or questions on those? Okay. Do I have a motion to waive the third reading for policy 3421 and approve it with the clerical change that we noted?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that one's approved. Can we take 7.3, do I have a motion to take 7.3 to 7.5 as a consent agenda?
Do you want to take 7.6 also?
Can I do that? Should I do, I could do it all together?
Do we need to add 7.1?
7.1
Well,
is
was
the
it just
first
the
reading,
first
so we're
reading?
going to
Oh,
just,
right, it was the
we'll just
first
talk
reading.
about
Yeah,
it again
yeah, sorry.
next meeting.
I should have mentioned that. Okay.
Should have
Okay,
been
so
paying
can I-
attention because we said it, but then I was like, we missed it.
Do I have a motion to take 7.3 through 7.6 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
that is to waive the, for 7.2 to 7.5, to waive the third reading and approve those policies, and for 7.6 to rescind the policy.
Yep.
Okay? All in
Yep.
favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Great, thank you very much.
Yep.
there you go.
Good job.
They're approved.
Working on the state minutes.
How many policies are you up to now?
We
gotta
don't even
figure
know.
know,
a
we
lot.
lost track.
See, we need that thermometer.
I know, all right. We'll
Thermometer.
work-
So
Valerie
anticlimactic
and I'll work
without
on
it.
that. We'll work on that.
We just
You would draw a
poster board.
thermometer.
They're just gonna walk around with it.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to take 8.1 through 9.1 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Do you have any comments on? the-
Nothing
yeah,
really of
typical.
note. We've got some more FMLA leaves, appointment of a leave of absence related. Spring coaching positions, still
Yeah.
finishing those out for the spring season, which has begun. Some observers and substitute teachers, continuing to get those. And then
Okay.
final one is, again, just for our
For
non-instructional staff.
Oh.
FMLA leave of absences, and folks to additional monitor and folks to help with supervision of athletics for the remainder of the school year.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, so that's all approved. Do we have any new business?
Did we get 9.1 in that motion?
Yes, we
Okay,
did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Catherine. Missed that part of the conversation. No new business on my part.
Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Oops, not yet.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.